Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today I'm looking at my first ever loco by Broadway Limited Imports. I don't usually accept free models from manufacturers to show on this channel, and that's because I'd much rather buy them myself and remain independent. However, on this occasion I did choose to accept Broadway Limited Imports' very kind offer to send me today's locomotive because it's an extremely premium loco that's also extremely expensive, and there would be no other way for me to show this on the channel because I personally wouldn't have been able to afford it. I also really wanted to make a video on a Broadway Limited Imports loco. I'm curious and you have been asking for it for years and years, so I have chosen to accept, although please bear in mind this is not going to be a review per se. I am going to be showing the loco up close and talking about all of its features, etc., but I won't be giving it a rating or putting it into a ranking, just to keep it separate from the models that I have purchased. But the loco I'm looking at today is this. It's in quite a nondescript white box, but it is made by Broadway Limited Imports, and it's a very fascinating looking loco known as the Blue Goose. And as you can see by the box, this is a brass hybrid locomotive, and Broadway explained to me briefly what this involves, and I'll read it to you. So, apparently all of the models in the brass hybrid range have handcrafted brass boilers, cabs and tender bodies, and they have die-cast locomotive and tender chassis. So that is crazy right there. Not only are they all metal and brass, but handcrafted as well. Broadway's brass hybrid line delivers unique prototypes through an innovative melding of brass body and detailing with die-cast chassis and drivetrain. The end result is a museum quality model that is extremely rare, yet as reliable as a mass-produced unit due to its cast mechanism. Brass hybrids are truly remarkable. Yeah, well, apparently it is going to be truly remarkable, and the prices certainly reflect that. So the full price for this loco on Broadway's website is $799.99, and at the retailers a typical kind of price is $679.99, which is about £540. So that makes this around 3 times as expensive as the models that I would usually review on this channel, which cost around £200 or just less. So it's extremely expensive, but obviously very, very different from those locos that I usually review. Really excited to see what this involves, and this will be my first ever brass ready to run loco. So let's take a look and see what this is like. So I want to start by saying a huge thank you to Broadway Limited Imports for sending this one over, because like I say, if they hadn't got in touch and offered this one to me, I would never have gotten to experience this loco, and I wouldn't have been able to bring it to everybody. So much, much appreciated. Also, a museum quality model. We've heard that term thrown around quite a lot in the past, and the locos described turned out to just be regular engines. I think today though, the term museum quality stands a good chance of actually meaning something. But let me show you the end of the box. So the product code for this is 7394. It is the ATSF Blue Goose number 3460. It is in the 1950 condition, and my version has no sound, it's just DCC ready, although there are obviously chipped versions you can get, and it is of course HO scale. And apart from that, the box reveals very, very little about the loco. So for the first time, let's remove the sleeve and let's see what this thing looks like. Here we go. Oh man. Okay, there it is. You can just get a sense of that blue colour, and it's a very, very strange kind of minty looking blue almost. Yeah, it's very, very strange, which is why I kind of asked for this one. Because, yeah, it's just very, very unusual, completely unlike anything else I've seen or owned. Okay, let's pull this out. Seems to have pretty good quality packaging as well, which is obviously necessary because, let me tell you, this thing is quite ridiculous in how much it weighs. Like, seriously, I could really, really feel this. Yeah, crazy. Right, what do we have here? Got something. Is this just packaging or instructions? No, it's instructions. Okay, Right, so we've got a serious booklet here, which is the operator's manual. Let's have a look. So connecting locomotive and tender, that looks fairly standard. We've got a drawbar and then an electrical plug, which I will do. Smoke, rolling thunder, don't have these features as far as I know, although I guess we'll check. Sounds, this might just be referring to sounds. Yeah, volume, mute. Let me move on and just see if there's anything that pertains to the loco itself. No, that is for DCC models. There is this though. Stealth Series overview and instructions. I guess that's more relevant to this. Okay, so it comes with a jumper install that will allow for movement and lighting during DC operation out of the box. Yeah, so it's got a blanking plug. It needs a 21-pin DCC decoder if you want to chip this, so that's nice and standard. And then there's a little bit more information on, I guess, compatible decoders. And then this is how you chip the thing. Presumably these sockets are in the tender, and you can see where they go there. So no problem, that's fairly straightforward. I don't think then that we've got any kind of instructions for this specific loco itself. So I guess we'll just have to wing it, although I do know how to connect the two together now. Okay, well, let's see what comes with this. I can see that there are some sort of accessory bags on the top. Oh, the sides are dropped off. That's probably supposed to happen. I don't know, this makes me nervous because I've never handled a loco that is worth this much. And it's a little bit scary. So if my hands are shaking, you can understand why. All right, so here we've got a set of traction tyres as well as a nut spinner. Surely this model doesn't need traction tyres, being that the chassis is cast and the body is brass. Hopefully these are optional extras if you need absolutely insane amounts of pulling power, but you never know. And then we've got another accessory here. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. It's some sort of detail part, but the instructions didn't mention it. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it'll be obvious when the model comes out of the packaging. Let me just double check there are no other accessories. I didn't see any. No. Okay, so with that then, let's open this up and see what's involved. I guess we'll get our first look at the paint finish, decoration. You know, this is a massive thing. Look at the width of it. Whoa. Okay. Look at that. What a colour that is. Yeah, does that come across on camera? I think so. Yeah, it's a very, very bizarre looking colour, isn't it? And I knew that when I asked for this one. You know, I knew this would make an interesting video. And it sure does, yeah. I was thinking it would be kind of like a garter blue. It's not though, yeah, it's much lighter. All right, so yeah, metal body. I'm actually kind of worried about lifting this stuff up. Is the loco and tender connected? Yeah, they're connected. All right. Let me pull this piece of foam out from between the two then. And I guess I'll try and lift them, which is scary. So here we go. Whoa. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is pretty heavy. And unusually, so is the tender. Because obviously, yes, the body for the tender is brass as well. And I've never held a tender like it. I know I shouldn't be going on about the tender, but this is just my first authentic thought. Yeah, this tender is cold to the touch, it feels like metal, it feels ultra robust and sturdy, and that's not to mention the way it looks with its detailing. Yeah, amazing. And then, obviously, the loco. Look at this thing, incredibly heavy as well, obviously, because it's made of metal. So interestingly painted. Yeah, the decoration is genuinely very, very unusual on this, but I like it a lot. And the detail seems to be absolutely exquisite. So we'll take a much closer look at the level of detail in just a second, but first of all, here's a little bit of background on this particular locomotive in real life. The Santa Fe Class 3460 was a class of 6 locomotives built in 1937 with the nickname Super Hudson, or in the case of this loco, the Blue Goose. The first engine in the class was built with streamlining, and it was presented in this robin's egg blue and silver livery, hence the latter nickname. It would be the Santa Fe's only streamlined locomotive at the time, and as such it was used on a lot of the railroad's promotional material. In 1937, the Blue Goose's sister locomotive, number 3461, set a world record for the longest single run by a steam locomotive at 2,227 miles, which is an absolutely astounding distance non-stop. The Class was oil-fired as built, and the engines ran on 2 outside cylinders, and they were capable of a top speed of up to 120 miles per hour, so they were ideal for express passenger work. Today, all but one of the Class have been withdrawn and scrapped, which is a real shame, although the surviving example, number 3463, is currently on static display, but there are plans to restore her into full working order. So there it is, up close and personal for you, the magnificent Broadway Limited Imports Blue Goose locomotive. And I've had a close look at this now, and I think I am going to say that yes, this is a museum quality locomotive. It is absolutely insane. Now I can almost hear you saying, what, $799? What is this, diamond encrusted or something? Well, actually, yes. Look here. It's extremely odd. These are supposed to be lamps, but they really do have kind of these diamonds attached to them, which I guess gives them a little bit of a sparkle, as a real lamp would. But yeah, jokes aside, this thing is absolutely insane. As you know, all made of metal, and that makes this the heaviest locomotive I have ever featured on this channel, except for the real things, of course. So it comes in at 825 grams, which is at the top of my list. So it's heavier than my big boy, heavier than all of my Wren diecast locos, heavier than the Accurascale Class 55. It is insanely heavy. Not just the loco, but the tender too, of course, because that is also made of brass. The other thing to mention to start with is the quality. Now look at the side of the loco, all of the details you can see here, every little piece of pipework, anything really that stands out from the body of the loco is separately fitted. And yet there is not one single bit of visible glue on this model. It has been assembled incredibly precisely, which tells me that the team responsible for assembly here are absolute pros. I mean, this thing is beautifully presented. But I think to me the most impressive feature on this loco is not the detail or the fact that it's made of metal. All of that stuff is amazing, but the most impressive aspect of this is the decoration. Now right off the bat, I'm not a big fan of the finish. It is a completely matte finish. I think you'd expect a metal-bodied loco to have a bit more of a sort of shine to it. That is my personal preference. Yeah, it looks quite flat. However, the way the decoration has been applied is absolutely flawless. It is the best that I've ever seen. The silver band across the loco running plate, look how precisely this has been done. There is no overspray whatsoever. The join between the different colours is ruler straight. It is incredible. You've got faultless prints, such as the running number here, and also on these little boards higher up the loco. Absolutely fantastic. And the pilot area, look at this, look at that silver banding. It is 100% perfect right across the loco. It is absolutely wonderful, and the tender as well. Look how sharply this has been decorated. So, you know, this loco costs an obscene amount of money. It is completely unaffordable, but you can see why. This is not just a cheap model. This genuinely is as premium as the price suggests, and Broadway certainly do deliver the premium model that you have paid for. So let's talk about detailing then. One thing I was thinking about was, is the molded detail in the brass body going to be as good, you know, given that it's made of brass? Well, the answer is kind of mixed. Yes, kind of. Look at the body here. There's plenty of detail here and the rivets have come out pretty well. But in other places, yeah, it looks a little bit soft. Although I'm not 100% sure whether this is because of the brass nature of the body or whether it's just been slightly overpainted or not. But yeah, in some places the detail is lost a little bit, but otherwise, yeah, it looks absolutely fine. Some people do say, you know, brass or die-cast bodies don't have the same level of detail as injection molded plastic. I think on the whole, no, that's not really the case here. We've also got effects like these grills, which look absolutely fantastic, and we've got a bit more of that over on the other side too, which looks great. So yeah, the body molding is not the greatest in some places, but overall, considering that it's metal, yeah, it's absolutely fine. Let's start at the bottom then with the wheels. Now this is in the 1950 condition, so we don't have the lining around the wheels, although the axles on this model have been left unpainted. Maybe that's how the real things looked, but I can't find any photos that quite depict it looking like that, so I might be wrong. But yeah, personally, that doesn't look that great. But the valve gear, the coupling and connecting rods obviously look fantastic. These are perfectly scaled. Look up some photos, they look just like the real thing. There's a real sense of weight to those, which is fantastic. The rear bogie here, this is made of plastic. I believe it's injection molded, but it's one of the few parts of the model that is. I think even this pipework here is made of metal. If it's not, it's extremely sturdy for plastic. So yeah, I do think it is metal. Absolutely incredible. On the side of the body, like I said, all of these components are separate, and we've even got components such as these chains here, which are real chains. They're not a molded effect. They are actually free to dangle like that. Yeah, that's cool too. We've also got lots of separately fitted wire handrails, whether it's on the side of the cab or along the side of the boiler, and obviously these are nice and straight and extremely well produced. Around the front end of the loco, we've got this Santa Fe plate, which I believe is a separate part, and again, the decoration on this piece is just incredible. We've got the very interesting streamlined end here with the kind of bulbous shape to it. Again, that's another really iconic feature of this loco. Incredibly unusual. And of course, yeah, we have the lamp on the end. Again, a beautifully detailed piece, which I believe will work, which I'm looking forward to seeing. Some great molded effects. You've got a real sense of depth with these gaps in the bodywork here. The chimney is a separate part, and there's absolutely loads of detail on that thing. And around the other side, we've got the separately fitted whistle, which does have, again, a kind of plasticky finish to it. I would actually say that I've seen better looking plastic whistles on cheaper Bachmann locos. Yeah, the finish on that isn't the best, and the same with the safety valves, really. Fantastically molded and very precisely fitted, but the finish on them I think could be a little bit better. On the top of the cab, we've got these vents which are fixed in place. You can't open those, unfortunately, although I do believe the doors are separately fitted. And then for the cab, we've got glazed windows and this little kind of windscreen here, which is an infinitesimally small separate part, but it is indeed separate. Look at the quality of that. And then there are fully painted and pre-fitted crew figures in the cab there. What a great little touch. And most American locos don't have painted cabs, but this one does. It's not extensively painted or anything, but the gauges have been picked out, and there is quite a lot of cab detail on the interior there, which looks great. Looking forward to see if we get any lights coming on in the cab. Around the back of the cab though, there, well, that's clearly an LED, isn't it? So definitely quite a bit of lighting on the model. Again, the extent of that we'll see later on. Let's take a look at the tender then. So the finish is pretty much the same as on the loco, pretty flat looking, but excellently painted. So like I say, yeah, just incredibly well done. The bogies on this are again just molded plastic, and actually the finish on those is better than the metal parts, which is strange. But anyway, yeah, nice looking metal wheels. Tons of detail around the front, and there is a tender full plate on the loco, which will meet the tender if you want to pull that down. The tender's also got these streamlined wings, which gives it a really lovely look. And even on the inside of those wings, we have the support structure for them, which has been fully modelled. And those parts are separate too, by the looks of it. Up on top of the tender, there is an absolute ton of detail, much of it made of metal, pretty much all of it separately fitted. You've got water filler caps, and the detail on those is insane. Handrails, lots of different components, and yeah, the molded detail too, which looks great on here. And then around the back, you've got a red lamp, which has got a red gel in it. Again, that's a finely detailed part. And the lamp casing itself is real metal. That is a cast part, and that has the best finish, I think, of any component on the loco. That looks really, really good. A separate ladder, and then the pre-fitted coupling, which is a really nice quality part. Made of metal as well, I believe, and excellently assembled. You just know that's going to work without any problems. And we've got vacuum pipes and a few other details fitted around that area too. So it's an insanely expensive loco, not one that I would ever be able to afford. And most people would probably say they don't need locos with this kind of quality treatment. But, you know, if you've got the money and you appreciate this kind of thing, I can totally see people spending $600 to $800 on this and not being disappointed, because I just can't fault it. I'm looking for faults. I found a few minor things that I think could have been better, but on the grand scheme of things, this is just an incredibly well presented model, and it is, I think, the highest quality model that I've ever seen. The build quality is just second to none, and the same with the decoration. So with that, I'm really curious to see how well this runs. Obviously on the outside, it's great, but what about on the inside? Is this really going to perform like an $800 locomotive? What should an $800 locomotive even run like? I've no idea, but we're about to find out. So don't go anywhere, let's give that a try. Alright, so there it is down onto the track, and it certainly is an amazing looking machine. I've already filmed the initial performance test, but I won't say a word about how that went for now. I'll show you that in just a second. After that, I did a quick disassembly of the model to see what the mechanism was like, and I've got to say it is indeed every bit as impressive as the outside of the model. Obviously at up to $800, this is not a disposable piece of kit. This is a locomotive for life, and it looks as though Broadway know that and that they've built these to last. So let's talk about the mechanism. First of all, the tender pickups are not that great. It only picks up from 4 of its 12 wheels, 2 wheels per bogie, so that's not an awful lot. But if you add in the number of loco pickups, that gives us 5 wheels picking up per rail, which is okay, I suppose. The drawbar is also surprisingly unsophisticated. It's just this kind of Bachmann style peg and loop drawbar with lots of ugly wires kind of bridging between the loco and tender. Yeah, I was expecting something perhaps a little bit more quality than this, but obviously as a powerful loco you do need a sturdy drawbar. I don't think the kind of plug and play style drawbar would quite cut it for this, but yeah, still it's not the best looking in the world, although of course it is functional. The base keeper plate on the loco is nice and easy to remove. It's held on with just 3 screws, and pulling this off reveals that there are proper massive bearings on each of the driving axles. It's also a split chassis design, so these bearings also pick up power, and you can see that this central axle is also sprung. The axle insulators are also reinforced with metal, so they shouldn't fail. They look like they're good quality. We've also got massive driving gears on this loco. It's driven by the rear axle, and the rear wheels do unfortunately have traction tyres on them. Now, why on earth a loco that weighs this much needs traction tyres, I have absolutely no idea. Not a big fan of traction tyres. They're usually a means to make a light, cheap model be able to haul a decent amount. Yeah, with this loco weighing what it does, this shouldn't be necessary. And, you know, after a few years, are these tyres still going to be okay? Not too sure. We have got some spare tyres included, which is good, but maybe an axle that doesn't have these tyres would have been a nice inclusion, because I personally would rather this model didn't have them. Okay, moving on to body removal then. Yeah, they've really made this loco serviceable and accessible, which is great. So just 3 screws, 2 at the back, 1 at the front, and the chassis was very, very easy to pull out. Now there's lots of wires connecting the chassis to the body. There's no spring-loaded contacts, but I guess you don't really need access to the insides of the loco unless you're going to oil the motor or something like that, so it's not dreadfully important. And yeah, there's a lot of lights on this loco. There's a light at the front, the rear, in the cab, and also behind the number boards, as we'll see, so lots and lots of lighting. The chassis itself is quite lightweight. Most of the weight of the model comes from the body, which is obviously metal, but it does have this huge motor, really, really massive, covers the kind of back third of the loco really, one of the best running motors I've ever seen as well, and it has of course got a massive flywheel connected to it. In terms of removing the tender body, this is just as straightforward. There are 4 screws holding this on, and then the body comes out nice and easily. Again, the chassis is tied to the body with lighting wires, but they are long enough to allow you to pull the chassis clear of the body, so that you can get access to the DCC socket. The chassis itself is die-cast, again amazing quality, and there are 2 massive pre-fitted speakers here in the chassis, so that all you need to do to chip this with sound is drop in that decoder. And you do that here where the 21-pin DCC socket is, and you've got good access to that and plenty of space, so that chipping this loco should not be a problem. And then in terms of gauge, the drivers come in at 14.4mm back to back, which is bang on the standard, so perfect there too. So a really high quality mechanism. Some parts of it I think could have been a little bit better. A few more pickups, a better drawbar that looks better too. Yeah, that would have been good, particularly on a model of this price. But this is not a mechanism that's going to be failing after 5 minutes. This is not a loco that you're going to be throwing away after 5 years. Really does look like it's built to last, which is great to see. And of course the other advantage of having a quality mechanism is that it runs rather well too. Maybe a little foreshadowing there, but let's move on and let me show you how that performance test went. Okay, moment of truth then, and I think I may be the only person on the planet who's about to run a brand new $800 Broadway loco on his carpet layout. But hey, Broadway caused this. You guys knew what you were letting yourself in for, and I guess if it does perform well on my layout, then it will certainly get my seal of approval. But does it work? Let's find out. Forwards direction. Let's give it its first test. Now, obviously, it's not running at this point. There it goes. All right, yeah, reasonably smooth start. Whoa. Seriously smooth. Wow. That is awesome. I think because of how heavy this is and because of how other heavy locos I've tested usually run, I was expecting this to kind of be quite sluggish in its performance, but it really seems quite lively. It kind of goes for it. Let me run by at 50% speed. Obviously I will run this in before I do the final performance tests. But yeah, it's a lively one. It really, really is. I can see we've got directional lighting working, so the headlight lights up in a neutral white in forwards direction. The light on the back of the cab, that lights up regardless of the direction. There's also these number boards on the side which light up, so quite a bit of lighting on this really. And then obviously the rear light with the red gel, that lights up red when it's in reverse. So I don't want to do too much in the way of torque testing because obviously this weighs a ton and it's got traction tyres, but is there any sort of power in this? Let's see. I'm only going to do this briefly. Oh man, flipping heck. Alright, so it couldn't turn its wheels because the massive amounts of weight and the grippy rubber traction tyres were stopping it. But it was pushing my finger, like I genuinely couldn't keep my finger still. Like the force this thing had was insane. So yeah, there's some power to this. Blimey. I don't know that I have the tools to test the pulling power of this, I'll tell you that now. But okay, before I destroy it, let's do a bit of slow speed testing. Here we go. Turning it up slowly. I will do all this again, I think, once it's had a chance to run in. But there we go. It is moving. So that's what an $800 locomotive runs like. Yeah, you can hardly tell that it's moving, but it is. Let's go a bit faster. And yep, it can do a smooth acceleration. Alright, this thing's crazy. Yeah, this thing is crazy. It's just incredible. It's silent. You know, they said silent on the box. I thought that meant it doesn't have sound. No, it means silent. Yeah, no motor noise. That's mesmerising. Absolutely mesmerising. You know, I've looked at a lot of locos and, you know, I'm kind of used to the whole loco thing by now. I don't tend to get kind of lost for words because I've seen it all before. This thing, though, is something different. Yeah, this is something new. It's a new experience, the likes of which I probably won't experience very often. But yeah, that's amazing. Have we got some flywheel action here? I think so. Let me just cut it off in front of you and then I promise we will stop and I'll run it in. Cutting off now. Yeah, it's got a flywheel, definitely. Okay, well, let's run it in. Let's see how it gets on. Let's go for about 50 speed. Here goes. Alright, I'm not actually sure what radius curves this is rated for, but here it goes on second. Not giving a darn, look at that. Oh man, no slowing down. The heaviest loco that I have ever featured, and it did not even slow down a touch on the second radius curves there. Wow. Okay, so this thing is incredible. The performance looks outstanding. I'm actually quite disappointed that I'm not going to be rating this because I think it would be getting a pretty good score, but yeah, I mean, talk about getting what you pay for. I could not imagine how good an $800 locomotive would have to be to justify the price. And yet here we have this loco, which is kind of answering that question. Yeah, it's one of the best runners I've ever seen. And I'm not just saying that because they sent it to me for free. You can see it right here in 4K at 60 frames per second. There's no way to fake this. Look at the way it's running on this carpet layout. Absolutely insane. So I'll let this run in fully, then I'll couple it up to some rolling stock and we'll see how it hauls. Super, super impressive. Okay, that is running in complete, and yet the performance is just incredible. Rock solid on the track. Obviously my track work's not the greatest. It is a good test for a loco. This loco passed with flying colours, never derailed, never even slowed down around the curves. It's genuinely fantastic. Let's have a look at the performance now that it's run in then. Let me go past at half speed for you. Here we go. So yeah, I'd say it's about the same. Obviously, as an express passenger loco with a top speed of 120 or so miles per hour, the top speed is kind of important on the model. So here it goes at full pace. Wow, pretty fast. So yeah, it's got those high speeds if you want them. It's actually quite scary to do that, but there we have it. Okay, the crawl before was incredible. What's it like now the loco has run in? Let's give that a try. Little bit of juice. Turning up. Turning up. There it goes. It's just incredible, isn't it? I've come in close to try and sort of capture how slow this thing can go. Yeah, it's quite something. And an acceleration. Nice. Right, so to test the pulling power was quite a challenge because it's obviously so powerful that I don't want to destroy it or the couplings by trying to pull on that. So what I ended up doing was tying a loop of cable around the tender and then hooking that up to my Newton meter, and I thought that would be the best way to spread the load and not damage the loco. Now obviously this has traction tyres and a lot of weight, so you know it's going to be powerful, but I wasn't quite ready for just how powerful. This thing drove forward with a force of 2 newtons, which is just crazy. I mean, that's double what the other most powerful locos I have are capable of, and that should allow this to haul around 105 coaches on straight and level track. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Again, that traction tyre, definitely not needed. Even without that, this would be a more than adequate hauler. But I don't know, let me know in the comments, do you appreciate the traction tyres? Would you need it to haul that much? Maybe if you've got inclines and such, you would need that. But yeah, for me, not so much. So, to test this loco's pulling power, I don't have any proper passenger coaches. You hear that, Broadway? No, I'm only joking. They have definitely done enough already. So I've set up quite a good number of boxcars just to really give this loco a bit of a chance to haul something. So with that, let's back up and let's test the couplings. Here we go. Let's try and do this smoothly. Ready? Creeping. Steady acceleration. There we go. All right, let's slow it down. Now, I know I'm repeating myself here, but again, to see a loco of this size and weight give you this amount of control on analog of all things, yeah, that is just insane. Let's go a bit quicker though, because it's going to take all day. Did we get it? Oh, no. I suspect the coupling is a little bit funny on that van, or boxcar, I guess. Yeah, it is actually. Let me just make sure that that's closing as it should. Now, let me swap it for a different wagon at the front. Hang on. Okay, let's try again. Yeah, definitely not the loco, because I've just been testing it off camera and it's fine. Got it? Yeah, there you have it. Okay, let's see how it gets on with a load. Right, I'm going to go up to about 40% speed, which looks good for a freight train. And on the middle line, I've got another loco, which is pretty large, although not as large as this. It's known as the Russian Decapod. This is a Bachmann loco, and I've got to say, this Blue Goose has made a lot of my other locos seem like absolute toys by comparison. But there we go, at least it works. And then to run with it, we've got the Baldwin 460, I believe this is. And this is interesting because it's a much cheaper loco that also has the metal body, although it must be said the quality of that model is still nothing close to this Broadway Limited one. But anyway, let's jump back to the Broadway and let's see how it's getting on with its load. Okay, here she goes, with a load on second radius curves. Wow. Yeah, you wouldn't know that this loco weighed almost a kilogram, would you? And this is not a small train. I mean, it is small compared with what this loco could do, but by my standards, it's a pretty large train. Doesn't care at all. So it's an amazing performer. It is truly tremendous. So, one of the best locos I've ever seen, but like every model really, there are pros and cons to this one. Admittedly, a lot more pros than there are cons, but let's go through some of them anyway. So, pros, quality through and through. Obviously, yes, the metal construction is incredible and unprecedented, but you've also got the build quality in that all of the separate parts are fitted straightly with no visible glue. You've got the quality decoration where everything is so precise and crisp, and also the quality mechanism because it's been built to last. You've also got the level of detail in the paintwork, which is just outstanding, as you would have seen, and the level of detail itself is outstanding as well, with so many details being separately fitted. It's also got tons of lighting and even cab detail, which is not that common on American outline models. The performance is obviously another massive plus. I mean, this runs just incredibly. I don't think I've ever seen a loco as, well, I've never seen a loco as heavy as this, full stop, but certainly not one that performs this effortlessly, at least on my kind of track as well. So that's another massive plus. So lots and lots of pluses. It's a truly tremendous model. Let's talk about the cons then. So I guess the major con is the price. Now, it is very, very expensive, and it's not that it's not worth the money, because I would say it probably is. It's just a case of being far too expensive for most people to be able to afford. Now, for me personally, I would rather have locos have a few less features, maybe not be entirely made of metal, and me be able to afford them, because I like to collect locos. So if you're a collector, this is probably not going to appeal that much to you. However, if you're looking to run a railway and you only want a small handful of locomotives and you've got the money to spend, I would not be looking any further than Broadway, because I've never seen anything like this. Costs a fortune, yes, but you do get what you pay for. But for the rest of us mere mortals, yeah, this is not something that you're going to be able to afford, at least not for me, and at least not on a regular basis. So yeah, price is the big one. The next con is the moulded detail on the bodywork. I don't know whether it's because it's made of brass or just because it was overpainted, but yeah, it's not as crisp as some plastic bodies, which is a little bit surprising for the price, but again, that's only something you'll notice up close. The other thing is the finish. Subjective, I suppose, but yeah, to me, the finish of the body looks kind of flat and almost a little bit plasticky, which is surprising given the actual metal construction of this. So yeah, a little bit more of a satin finish I think would have looked better on this. But I don't know, let me know down in the comments, do you agree with that, or do you think the finish on this loco is right? The other slight criticism I would give is lack of proper instructions. This was actually quite a scary experience because I was handling this loco and taking it apart and accessing the DCC socket and all that stuff without any proper guidance. Now, it might be that these are supposed to have instructions and mine just didn't by accident, I don't know. But yeah, the instructions that I got with this really didn't go into any detail on the features and how to use the model and that sort of thing. So it's only a minor thing, easily corrected, but yeah, I think some proper instructions would be really good. Otherwise though, a tremendous model. Thank you so much to Broadway for sending this over to let me do a video with it. I mean, this is the most incredible model I think I've ever seen. And so it should be, because it costs a fortune, but it really is something else. The weight of it, the quality of it, everything just comes together to look incredible. So yeah, this is how the other half live, that's for sure. I would love to be able to afford locos like this on a regular basis. Obviously I can't, which is a little bit frustrating, but to have been able to show something like this on the channel was really awesome. So again, thank you to Broadway for that. But yeah, what do you think about this? Is it worth the money? Would you buy one of these if you had that kind of money to spend on a loco? What are your thoughts on the model? Do let me know. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, cheers folks, you take care.